voter fraud and the voter IDs. And we found out, and Kelly, can you show the chart? So 16 out of 50 states, this is old news, we all know it, do not require ID to vote. Those 16 have 212 out of the 532 electoral votes. 11 out of the 50 states do not require photo ID. 23 actually require ID. So I went to ssa.gov, which is a Social Security website. It's legit. You know, people are like, well, where'd you get your source? That's the government's Social Security website. And I found out that the number of voters, Mo, registering without a photo ID skyrocketed this past couple months in three key swing states: Arizona, Texas, and Pennsylvania. It's freaking absurd. So since the start of 2024, Texas went 1,250,000 votes. PA, registered votes, I'm sorry. Pennsylvania, 580,000. Arizona, 220,000. And then Kelly put it up. This website, the HAVV, Help America Vote Verification System, which coincides with Have America Vote Again Act, allows voters to register with the Social Security number, the 4 digits, and that's all they need, okay? So illegals, however, are not able to get licenses there, driver's licenses, but they can get Social Security cards for work authorization permits. And then, so Mo, going back, I know we heard your point, we heard what you stood. When you're finding out stuff like this, is it not changing your stance, but are you seeing now how this influx of just wide open borders, it's not just, you know, stopping them. You hear Mayorkas, you hear all these guys all the time, just, no, it's a humanitarian thing. We have to save them. We don't want kids in cages. What do you feel, has anything shifted? Has anything changed?
Well, the southern border has become more and more of an urgent circumstance, right? It is the biggest domestic issue in the election. Okay. Usually it's the economy, right? Yeah. The economy, stupid. Now it's keep them safe, stupid. So is it broken? 100%. Is it an open border? No, and I don't like hearing that, not because of politics, because it's not fair to the CBP people.
Okay.
You know, they're down there, they're busting their asses, they're doing the job. They are overwhelmed with flow.
Yep.
They don't have the staff. They don't have the processing capabilities. They don't have the places to hold people. They don't have the means to send them back. Yeah. We're being very unfair to them. So do I believe that the Democrats are trying to get as many illegal entrants as possible to boost their voting ranks? I don't think that there's that kind of intelligence in really? Either of the parties.
You don't put it, you don't?
I think it's a collateral effect that they're betting. Is there a chance that those people may be more likely to vote Democratic? Maybe, although we see Latino voters shifting right because of the strong family values. There's a lot of religiosity in their family structure that moves them in the culture wars to the right. Here's my feeling. It's easy to say, yes, we should all have IDs. We have IDs for everything else. Yeah. You should have it to vote. Okay. I have two concerns. One is there's all this data out there that as you go down socioeconomic rungs, especially in major metropolitan areas where most of the population is, less people who are poor drive. Less people who are poor interface with government and will go get IDs. So they say it has a disproportionate effect on them, that it's a disenfranchising thing. And I was always ambivalent about it until I realized, remember motor voter? So there was a move that when you go to get your license, you should be able to register to vote right there. Yeah, some states have that, some don't. The right was very against that rule. And it was seen as like, well, it was like making it too easy to vote. You'd have too many people voting that may not vote for the Republican Party. So I'm a little suspicious of motives always. Because I also don't believe we have a big voter fraud issue. We hear about it. I've just never seen it demonstrated. And every time they study it, they come away with a very small index of false, fraudulent voting. And it's easy to say we should all have an ID. I got one in my pocket right now. Yeah, I get it.
I have two of them.
I just want to make sure that everything we're doing is fair across the board. I get how it sounds like a no-brainer to do it. Why would I set myself up to get smacked around on an argument? Yeah. It's only because of what they say about a disproportionate impact on poor people.
Well, okay, the open border, I think people take issue with just because it's semantics. Okay, it's not an open border because there are some people there, but it's effectively open. It's being invaded. The idea that you don't know if they're doing it on purpose to bank on future votes, you can never know intentions 100%, but damn certain it's going to work. Latinos leaving the Democrats in larger numbers than before is specifically because of the border issue, I believe, at least in part,
That's one issue.
where they feel that their vote is no longer being respected, the process they followed is no longer being respected, and their own life and well-being is being compromised by this effectively open border.
But they're also culturally conservative. A lot of Latino communities are
Christian, nuclear family,
Yeah.
hardworking.
and I understand what resonates with them. In addition to that issue, I'm not
But they've
disagreeing.
traditionally voted Democrat. And I
Yes.
think one of the issues that a lot of minorities have with the Democrat Party, and I think it's becoming much more pronounced now, is they get used, abused, and then tossed aside when the Democrats can find another demographic to politically exploit, which is, I think, exactly what they're doing with this open border. They deny the problem in 2016, call Trump a racist for bringing it up, and then they make the problem exponentially worse so they can fill the country with people who will vote for them in, I don't know when they get the right to vote, or if they can register now, impact congressional seats and possibly register illegally to vote in
Two
this
things
election.
can be true. Multiple things can be true at the same time. So what do we see? I didn't like that former President Trump created what I called the Brown Menace. He didn't call them the Brown Menace. I'm characterizing his rhetoric that way. We know as a matter of fact that the concern is not that you're going to have hordes of people come here who are going to rape and kill and steal your jobs. That is a boogeyman complex. There's absolutely a problem with having people come in here when you don't know who they are or why they're coming in. There's no question about that. It's silly to argue otherwise. There can't be an open border. You can't have a come as you are policy. Everybody knows that. Even on the far left, they know that, which is why they're quiet about that absurdity. It's certainly poisoning their party. There's no question. Again, I think it is the domestic issue that will decide the election. However, just because they're not what Trump suggests they are, bad hombres, doesn't mean that we're not getting robbed by this problem, because there's so much money that they come in and take out of the economy, and they get services that they're not paying for. And there's no question that you have to fix it. The better question is, why don't they fix it? The suggestion is, well, because they like that you're going to get all these new voters. I don't think that's what it is. I think that the problem works better for the parties than any progress on solving it. It gives the right the boogeyman argument. It gives the left that you guys are heartless. And it works better than fixing it. And we heard it out loud when McConnell said, the politics have changed on this Senate bill.
Yeah.
We're not going to do anything on it now. We're going to leave it until after the election. The problem works better because it keeps people divided. And whereas you can't find a room of people, Taylor and I were talking about this earlier, everybody thinks you need to do something about the border. Everybody believes it's a priority.
No matter what.
So why isn't anything being done? That's the poison of the party system.
Yep. But and then Mo, not to cut you off, but so and I agree to a certain extent, but with the I get it with Trump's rhetoric, it was, and mind you, salesman trying to be trying to stay in there, trying to rile the troops, so to speak. But when he was saying, they're not sending their best, I know that's kind of a blanket statement, but I mean, as we've been seeing for the past, I want to say 6 months, it's gotten aggressive with literally raping young girls, murdering them after. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, it doesn't take, they're not all bad hombres, right?
Yeah.
They're not. But it only took 20 bad hombres on September 11th to hijack those planes and fly them into buildings, 19.
Yeah.
Plus the network that helped them
Yeah.
plan. But this was October. This was U.S. Senator Shelley Capito from West Virginia. 169 migrants on the terror watch list tried to cross the southern border.
Yeah.
That's terrifying that 169 got caught trying. How many got through and weren't noticed? And we talked to Thomas Homan, the former acting director of ICE under President Trump. And one of the points he brought up is that there are programs that are helping people coming into this country illegally to get set up in different cities with different financial means, right? There's Chicago is setting up $1,000 for apartments and furniture and that kind of stuff. There are people that are coming in and circumventing that aid. They're going around that aid because they don't want to be identified. Why are they going around and not accepting free money? These people are coming to this country to get a better life because the conditions in their countries are horrific. They're coming here. They don't have money. They don't have food. They don't have shelter. They don't have clothing. But then they're being offered free access to that, and they're choosing not to get it to not be detected. Those are the people that scare me.
Yeah.
And you got them coming from different countries.
Yeah, and that was the point that I was going to get to. It's not just the scary brown guy thing. The Chinese nationals that have been coming over. I saw a video yesterday, Mo. It scared the shit out of me. It's this couple. These Americans are talking with them. They're using the translator app, and the guy's like just hugging him. You know, he's emotional that he got here to get away, because some of them, like I said, they're trying to freaking get a better life. I get it. I mean, it doesn't help when the administration is like, just come on, who we don't give a shit, because now those bad actors are coming in. And he was like, he asked them on the translation, is there an influx of Chinese spies that are wanting to do terrorist stuff? By the way, I'm finding out a bunch of more crazy stuff about the cyber hacking, about this bridge. It's complicated. They're not bringing their best, and now, like you said, it's Russian, it's Chinese, it's Uzbekistan, it's freaking Ukraine, it's Russia. It's people that do want to hurt. And then my question is, so Chris, do you consider the tactic of using that to win an election? Is it fair? Is it legal to just say, come on in? Because
No.
it's not.
No.
Okay.
I mean, you can say it, but to have a policy where you circumvent federal law to help your party would obviously be illegal.
What's amazing, first of all, I think the bad hombres and the remarks that Trump made, I think only were misunderstood by people who wanted to misunderstand them. When he says they're not sending their best, he's obviously referring to the fact that it's a tactic of some of these countries to deliberately send not their best. And nobody who really heard what he actually meant understood him to say all illegal immigrants are bad. All illegal immigrants are illegal by definition, but not necessarily bad people. But among those illegals are plenty of bad people. The irony about the voting stuff, it's so absurd, is that the same party that says if you need a license to drive a car, you should need a license to own a gun, then say if you need a license to drive a car, you don't need to show photo ID to vote. Within the left, and I'm saying the traditional left, it's mutually incompatible ideas that they hold at the same time. And their arguments, if you apply one mutatis mutandis to the other, they bump heads. And so you want to own a gun? Fine. You need a license to drive a car? Get a license to own a gun.
You want politics to not include hypocrisy?
I would expect a little bit more foresight, but nobody holds them to these fundamental paradoxes of their own reasoning.
Because you have this absurd Jets Patriots political system, whereas you are on the team can do no wrong.
Yep.
You see no problems with what your team does, and you only see the problems on the other team. And that's fine for football, but it is not fine for our politics. And I'm telling you, I've never been more sure of anything. The party system is the problem. The good news is the solution is bottom up. People need to leave the parties. Be independents. Be free agents. Be critical thinkers. Do not subordinate your interests to a party.
And
that is absolutely the fix.
I would say the outlier to that, though, and a lot of people, although you can say that they don't criticize Trump and that they agree with a lot of people say everything that he says, but what makes him the outlier and many people who follow Trump is that they did criticize both parties. That's why they like Trump, is because we don't want to fall into it. It's just left, it's just right. It's like, no, actually, it's both of you guys, but we need someone who's going to actually communicate that. And just to bring it back to the voter ID thing, and when they say, whoever is saying that it's going in front of police or government, I don't know. I've got an ID and I've gotten a passport. There's not bodyguards or anything like that. You literally go in. I just got a passport. You show your document. There's probably a security guard. I don't even know if he has a gun. I don't even know if he's certified. And they're like, okay, they do your documents, take your photo, and you're off. It's not like this big, scary system. So I think that's a boogeyman too. Like, oh, they don't want to go in front of the government. It's like a mall security guard. He goes in, he checks. Yeah. You get your thing and you go home. It's like such a non-controversial situation.
I agree.
When you do that.
So Mo, let me ask you this though: is there any hope to change that system? I mean, not just the independent, because, and again, I think it's a uniparty. Just like when they say left or right, or my friends on the other side of the aisle, or when you see something like, I'm just throwing something out there, like Fauci goes in front of Congress. One side is like kind of protecting him. The other side's like barking, and what was it, Rand Paul? And Mo, at the end of the day, nothing happens.
Never.
Zero happens. So is there a chance, besides an independent, just another party to go against this left-right nonsense? Because, and again, this is going to sound weird coming out of my mouth, common sense should prevail. We should have a closed border. These jobs should be going to Americans. All this, you're giving out money to illegals. There's a homeless guy on the floor dying in front of you. He's on drugs. And is there ever going to be a chance for anything different?
Yeah.
What's it going to take?
There's always chance. You have two things that change the status quo, right? First is a God forbid, which is tremendous crisis.
Yeah.
After 9/11, there were all these fights going on. Bush was in bad shape. Giuliani, who became America's mayor, was in bad shape.
Yeah.
On September 6th, let's say.
Yeah.
What happened? We all became scared by the same thing.
Yep.
All those fights stopped. And we were fingers into a fist of we have to go get the guys who did this to us. Now, we happen to have gone to the wrong country.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Weird. But we were together. So crisis will do it.
Yep.
Also, ultimately, a understanding of it being a collapse. So where I see the potential for collapse is when Perot ran and influenced the outcome of the race and wound up having Clinton become president of the United States. The Republican Party went through a very significant reassessment period and figured out how this had happened and what they needed to do to connect with who their voters were. And they wound up, to your point earlier, on the state level, they created a firestorm across the country of legislative and gubernatorial wins all across the country. The reason that Republicans, they have a registration deficit. There are more registered Democrats than there are Republicans. But they have more influence on the state levels because they put in the time after what happened with Perot to reassess how their party worked, how they won on the local level to take legislatures so that they could have a hand in redistricting, you know, and how the congressional districts work, the governor's offices. I see that now. I think if Bobby Kennedy gets on enough ballots to make a difference in the election, I don't think he can win.
I don't think so.
But if he gets on enough ballots, the Democratic Party, I believe it will change the race to Biden's disadvantage.
Really?
If Bobby stays in. I think the Democratic Party will be forced out of collapse to reassess how disassociated it's become from what its base was.
That's too optimistic. I don't think that's going to happen. You're right about crisis brings about change. Unfortunately, the crisis after 9/11 brought about the Patriot Act, which some people might argue was part of the design of letting these crises happen in the first place. They do tend to benefit both parties. And to the uni-party argument, agreed. When Trump came in, above and beyond his mean words of, you know, they're not presenting their best, he went to build the wall. And then what happens? Legislation to prevent him from appropriating the funds to build the wall, as if back in 2016, the Democrats wanted the problem, exacerbate the problem for as long as you can for political profit, and then say the problem has gotten too bad now, and those who oppose our bogus solution of that border bill are part of the problem.
I agree.
It's very deceitful.
I agree, 100%. Everything you just said vis-a-vis the border, it's 100% true. And it's a shame because I believe it's artificial. That is an easy problem. I've been covering it for 25 years.
I was going to just say that for a while.
I have been down there so many times, okay? And I hate what we do to the men and women who do the job. You know, CBP is not like other cops, okay? I'm sure most of the people watching now, or that you should, support your local police. But these people are different. They're like half social worker. These people. A lot of them have family and ethnic connection to the same people who they're policing coming across.
Yeah.
They have huge hearts. They're a tremendous risk. They're incredibly outmanned. So I'm always slow to kind of say nobody's doing anything. They're killing themselves down there.
Yeah.
They say the same things. Every administration I've covered it with, they ask for the same things. It's never a wall. They're fine with barriers, physical barriers where you need them, surveillance barrier, all that stuff they want. But that's not the first thing they ask for. It's not the second thing they ask for. The first thing is rule changes.
Yeah.
Economic asylum is not asylum. Okay? It's not what the international standards are supposed to be about. And even if they are, it doesn't matter. Our laws come first in this country. They want rule changes. The second thing they want is processing capacity. Give them the ability to assess whether your asylum claim is legit. Give them the magistrates, the tribunals, and places to hold you so that they don't have to do catch and release. Those are the first two things they ask for. And everyone has known it. And they won't do it for them. And they say, well, we need to do comprehensive. It'll never happen. It will never happen. And they know it won't happen. And I feel bad for the people who do the job. It's the worst problem we have that everyone knows how to fix.
Yes, it's true.
And then you get, not to always point the finger at the Biden administration, but I will. Then you get the media lying about border agents whipping migrants. You get the media lying about them being kids in cages, about them being responsible for the deaths of people, the family or the young kid that actually died on the Mexican side and not on the American side. And so above and beyond not finding any long-term solutions, they demonize the people who are doing this in real time. I mean, it's almost as though they want to exacerbate the problem, and I think they do.
And I know you have to go to the next story, but if I may make one more point. I don't know if you guys have ever read the book Built to Last, but if you do, I would recommend it. It's our book of the month this month. But, you know, you were talking about crises bringing people back together. Obviously, we've had civil war, so we've had bad times in this country where we really didn't agree. However, I feel like how part of what we have to come back to, and what it talks about in the book from a business perspective, but also uses countries as is having a core ideology, going back to the fundamental principles like the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, because like you mentioned, we can all agree on some things, but if we don't ever think about the things we agree on, which is our core foundation, which makes us a country, then how are we ever going to get past these things? Without a border, we don't have a country. That's for anyone. Like if you don't have actual means of what it means to be a country, which is your ideology and the borders that consist of what the geographic is. So I think part of it is we have to go back to the fundamentals. We have to go back to what it means to be America. And if we do that, as Patrick would say, the future looks bright.